And we are live. And I am sprawled out, relaxed, giving off negative body language, just like Jacob Rees-Mogg, the politician without a care in the world. Did you see him lying down on the job? What a joke. What a joke of a politician, and what a joke democracy is in this country. Is it even real? Do we really get the government that we deserve? Should we bother to vote? Is it just a charade? And by taking part in it, we are just to blame. The Dusty Foot is saying, big up. Hello, the Dusty Foot. It's Nunty. Welcome. Yeah, I'm thinking about the democracy in this country and the chaos that I've come back to. Out of the country for a little bit, and I came back, and Boris Johnson, Bojo the clown, has prorogued the parliament. And what a good word for him, because he is a rogue indeed, and not an amateur one at that, a pro-rogue. So, Parliament is disbanded for a few days, and Boris Johnson denied that he was doing it in order to get a no-deal Brexit through. I don't know why he bothered to deny that, as that is so obviously why the Parliament was prorogued. And maybe it would have been a vote winner if he'd actually taken credit for it. And Arsenal is the best is saying the politician that was slouching was Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he's a clown. And Jen Wallace is saying, good evening from the US of A, our greatest ally. Good evening, Jen Wallace. Yeah, Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's a clown. Is he white? Why is he a clown? Send in the clowns. He can't be any more of a clown than Bojo. And Jacob Rees-Mogg is a Roman Catholic. Now there's an interesting point. We have never had a Roman Catholic Prime Minister, and perhaps we never will. Maybe we're not allowed to. Could it be that there is a secret ruling preventing a Roman Catholic from becoming the Prime Minister? Has there ever been a Prime Minister who wasn't of the Protestant faith? And Camille Kellner is saying NWO, and I'm sure we know what that stands for. So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Roman Catholic. Tony Blair, who became a Roman Catholic, why did he leave it until he had left the post of Prime Minister? Isn't that a little bit curious? And could it be, and this is a law, that the monarch of this country, the king or queen, cannot be a Roman Catholic, cannot marry a Roman Catholic? Can you believe we actually have a law that stipulates our head of state cannot marry someone of a certain religion? I mean, if it was a law that stated cannot marry a black person, we'd be up in arms. But our head of state cannot marry someone of a particular religion. And it is curious that we've never had a Prime Minister from a different religious background. And I brought this up once in a discussion, and I challenged the group. I said, name me any Prime Minister of a background other than the Protestant faith. And someone who'd done their homework came up with Benjamin Disraeli. Now, everybody knows that Benjamin Disraeli is of a Jewish background. The clue is in the name. He was of a Jewish background. But at an early age, Benjamin Disraeli was baptized into the Church of England. He was a Christian. He became, and he was brought up as a Christian. And interestingly, his brother was not. And they both went into politics. Only one of them was christened and brought up as a Christian, and only one of them became the Prime Minister of England. And that's because till this day, the Prime Minister of England must be a Protestant. It's all right. She can be a woman, no problem. We've had 2 of those, apparently. But they cannot be a Roman Catholic. Jen Wallace is asking, what faith is the Queen now? Well, the Queen is not only a member of the Church of England, the Queen is the head of the Church of England, head of the state and head of the church. Head of the Church of England. Forget the Archbishop of Canterbury. The Queen is the head of the Church of England. She cannot marry a Catholic. She cannot be a Catholic. And no one of the Catholic faith can marry into that family. And it would seem that no one of the Catholic faith can be advisor to the monarch, because that is what the Prime Minister is, advisor to the monarch. And when Boris Johnson went to the Queen and asked permission to prorogue the Parliament, she granted it. Now, she could have overruled him. She could have put her foot down and said, no, Boris, you're not getting what you want. But then where would democracy have been? And where is democracy at the moment? We're all over the place, and it's been put on hold in the name of democracy. Now, all the MPs, the members of Parliament, are elected locally and elected to represent the people of their constituencies. That's been put on hold. But the decision whether or not to leave the EU, a decision that was made by the people, as David Cameron said it would be, that it would be binding. That decision was made 3 years ago and has not been carried out yet, has not been followed through. So therefore, in order to implement that democratic vote, the democratic rights of the people, the democratic representation of the people has to be removed. Square that circle. Jen Wallace is saying, sorry, they don't teach us things like this over here. Well, what do they teach you, Jen Wallace? And don't worry about it. I wouldn't expect you to know the ins and outs of our country. And if we are informed about what goes on in America, I think it's because America have the dominant culture in the world. Everyone watches American TV, everyone watches Hollywood films. We are very much exposed to American culture, and you can forgive Americans for kind of thinking they are the center of the world. And famously, the World Series, which I think is a baseball competition in America, features only American teams, even though it's called the World Series. And Jen Wallace is saying they teach us active shooter training for jobs now. Well, that's sad, but is it a good thing? Is it better? It's better to have the training than not have it, I suppose. Active shooter. Wow, there's a buzzword, a phrase that we're not too familiar with over here. And Jen Wallace is saying they give the kids in school shooter drills. Hassan Radwan, good evening. Hassan, Masal Khair. He's saying, I voted to remain and dislike Boris Johnson. But frankly, I don't care if we leave without a deal anymore. Interesting. I mean, what if we just left on world trade rules and just been done with it? And we would have been 3 years down the line now. Wouldn't that have been better? Whether you agree or disagree about Brexit, I think the whole hoo-ha and chaos that's come with it has certainly left us worse off. And the tinfoil hat wearer in me tells me that somebody doesn't want us, some people don't want us to leave the EU, because if they did, we already would have. And they say, whoever you vote for, the government gets in. So maybe it's all just as I say, a pantomime, and we're just along with it. Arsenal is the best, is giving his impartial view as ever. My view, the government, should it got a free trade agreement with the EU, should have got a free trade agreement with the EU. 33X is saying we ain't ever leaving the EU. Is it the Hotel California, where you can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave? Something like that. And 33X is saying, deal with it and get on with your life. Yes, we must get on with our lives. We must move on. And this, I think, has been holding us back. We've been treading water for 3 years. Hassan Radwan is saying, the world won't end. I rather wish it would, but sadly the world will go on, even if we leave without a deal. Oh, Hassan, don't wish the world to end, my friend. What would we, who would upload videos to YouTube? But I think every generation has felt like the world was about to end, and all these apocalyptic predictions, going deep into religion now, because it always comes up. All these predictions of Armageddon and the Malhama, the great slaughter that is to come. I'm sure the people that made these predictions were predicting it quite soon, 5 to 10 years. But that's the thing with a prophecy. If you never put a time constraint on it, you can never be wrong. Or if you are going to put a time limit on it, be nice and vague and say, it'll be a day like a week. But what does day mean? Does it mean era, epoch? There's another good word, Greek word, I think. So yeah, don't worry. The world isn't going to end just yet. And Hassan Radwan is saying, I'm hoping Gog and Magog break through the iron wall soon and put an end to your misery. Yeah, I'd love to see Gog and Magog, these tribes or giants, or what are they? They're various different things depending on what day of the week it is. Gog and Magog, or Juj and Majuj, as I believe they're known in Arabic. These are these mischievous tribes, people, entities. They are mufsidin fil ard. They spread fasad. There's a good word that I think comes from the Arabic and into the English language. Fasad, as in a facade, something that is misleadingly representing itself. Would that be a good definition? Luckily, we've got a Arabic teacher in the chat, Dardasha. Dardasha, give us a translation of the Arabic word fasad. I'm guessing it means corruption. And Dardasha is saying, deal or no deal, I stopped wasting my time and I did actually move on. Politics is just there to divide us and control us. And Hassan Radwan beat Dardasha to the punch. Fasad is corruption. Very good. But is that where we get our English word facade? And is it to do with putting a face on something? Superficial, aphasia. I went to what I was told was the Museum of Corruption in Ukraine. And I sped around Ukraine so quickly, I can't quite recall which town I was in at the time, but I think it might have been Lviv. And Jamal took me to the Museum of Corruption, or that's how he was translating the word from Russian into English, but it was in fact the Museum of Bootlegging. Or what's the word when you import goods illegally? The word escapes me now. Hassan Radwan is saying mid-17th century, from French facade, from face on the pattern of Italian fasciata. Facade mid-17th century, from French facade, from face. Okay. Fig Tree is saying smuggling. Yes, Fig Tree. Thank you very much. You read my mind. Yeah, okay, so maybe fascia and facade are not related. I'm always looking for a deep meaning, and sometimes you can, when you want to see something, you don't, you see something and it's not really there. But yes, smuggling, that was the word, bootlegging, smuggling. So I went to this, Hassan Radwan saying not related. Come on, Hassan Radwan, it must be. I'm always looking for a link. Yeah, so we went to the Museum of Smuggling, and Jamal told me it was the Museum of Corruption. And we're walking around the museum. There's various things in cabinets that had been smuggled, all manner of contraband. There's a word. Guns, drugs. I always wonder how they show, if they're portraying drugs in a museum like that. Could it be real? Surely not. But then again, could the weapons be real? And we're walking around this museum. They're giving the guided tour in Russian. And Jamal says to me, oh man, God, what they're talking about is really boring, as he understands Russian. And I said to him, well, luckily I had no idea, as I do not understand a word of Russian, or rather, I understand about 2 words. Hassan Radwan is breaking the bad news to me, saying, nope, you are seeing things again. Yeah, I'm often seeing things that are not there. We can try, that's the trouble when us tinfoil hat wearers, we're desperate to see things. Sometimes where we see things that are not there. But yes, mufsidin fil ard, they are spreading corruption on the world, these tribes or giants or whatever they are, Gog and Magog, and they're behind a wall, and one day they'll be released. Or have they been released already? At least metaphorically speaking, because there is corruption everywhere. Corruption is rife, and I always think whenever we sense that the politicians are losing control of the country, it's like when the teachers are losing control of a classroom or a year group. It always has a negative knock-on effect, and we're probably going to see all kinds of chaos in the country at the moment. Anarchy in the UK. Anarchy, as in without order. And Hassan Radwan is saying, pareidolia is the tendency to see shapes in clouds, seeing faces in inanimate objects or abstract patterns, or hearing hidden messages in music. Pareidolia. There's a word. Look out for it. Whenever you learn a new word, you probably start seeing it everywhere. And you think, I can't believe it. This word is cropping up everywhere, and I only just learnt it. But that's because you are more aware of it, and you're subconsciously looking for it. And some people call it counting the hits. When we look for patterns and we say, oh, what a coincidence that such and such happened, but we never take note when it doesn't happen. And as I've said before, It would be more of a coincidence if there were no coincidences. So, can anyone give me an example of a Roman Catholic Prime Minister? And Hassan Radwan is saying humans are pattern seekers. Yeah, we are. And is that a bad thing? I always look for coincidences, even whether it's in words and meanings, coincidences in your life. And I've spoken a lot recently about whether or not Google are listening to us, and the fact that something you'll talk about will then appear to you in an advert on your phone later that day, and it's almost indisputably evidence that Google or whoever it is are listening to our conversations. But apparently what is more likely is that the algorithms, the algorithms, who'd have thought he would release a song? The algorithms are accurately not recording what you have done, but predicting what you will do. They know the sort of things that you research, therefore they know the sort of things that you are likely to talk about, and they have placed that advert in your phone, in your line of sight, before you've even thought about it. And Dardasha is saying Google is listening for sure. Everyone does now. Haha. Maybe. On the Ukraine trip, staying in one of the cheap and cheerful hostels that Jamal and I managed to find our way into, Grandma Hostel. We arrived in the dead of night as usual, in a room sharing not a bed, but sharing the beds, 8 beds, and we have to creep in and clamber. There's something about the hostel, that familiar clambering up onto the top bunk, because all the bottom bunks will go very quickly, and you'll have to clamber up in the dead of night, trying not to wake the other 5 or so people that are sleeping in the same room as you. And in the dead of night, in the pitch of pitch black, whilst trying to get ready to go to bed, Jamal whispered in my ear, so as not to break the silence, and he said, "Have you got any dental floss?" And then blasting out of his phone, Google began saying, "According to Wikipedia, dental floss is a dental item," and it just woke everyone up, and it was the worst timing. And Day 3X is saying, trying not to wake 5 other murderers. I don't think I've stayed with any murderers, never under the same roof. Pleb Enforcement saying, good evening, Pleb Enforcement. Check out Pleb Enforcement's channel. Lots of content being uploaded there. Hassan Radwan is saying, did you know algorithm comes from Al-Khwarizmi? Yeah, I did know that, or I've always known it's come from somebody Arabic. They were very good at maths, weren't they? The Arabs. But I've never been able to pronounce the name correctly. Al-Khwarizmi. I can't quite see how Al-Khwarizmi algorithm. And he basically invented algebra. And I think al-jabr obviously comes from the Arabic for rearrange. Does it mean to rearrange something? Put it in context. Put it in a sentence. Al-Jabbar. Well, it must be one of the names of God, I think. Mend, join, okay. And God is Al-Jabbar, the mender, or the joiner. Hence we get the name Abdul-Jabbar, the servant of the mender or the joiner. Jabbar, the powerful. Yeah, all generally positive stuff, isn't it? The names of God. Apart from the deceiver, can't get my head around that one. Why would God want to deceive you? Although maybe he only deceives bad people. But that's for another night. But there is a lot of deception going on, kids. We are being deceived left, right and centre by some kind of deceiver. I'm not sure who. I don't think it's God. I think it's the opposite. Not that I actually, in fact, who cares what I believe anyway? I'm doing away with labels. But whether or not you believe in a literal devil, you can recognise evil for what it is. Pleb enforcement, are you pro Brexit or anti? Well, it's I just want the best for the country. And Jordan M is saying hi. Hello, Jordan M. I've taken a leaf out of Jordan M's book and broadcast live from the vehicle. Hassan Radwan is saying the only devil is the one inside us. Yeah, I think you're right. But boy, isn't he evil? The devil. John M saying lol card hour. Yeah, I'm inviting people to my way of thinking. Pleb enforcement, that was a cop-out answer if ever I've heard one. Yeah, I have to admit, pleb enforcement, I did cop out on that one. And I believe the cops are a subject of choice for pleb enforcement. And 33X is saying that's what Leo Muhammad said. Yeah, Leo Muhammad of the Nation of Islam said that the devil comes from devalue. The devil wants to devalue you. And whether or not they're right, I love how the Nation of Islam look very deep into the meanings of things, and perhaps some people would say they've looked a little bit too deep and seen things that are not really there. But I love this idea that devil means devalue, and somehow that got into the English language. I'm sure devil comes from diablo. Diablo must be the Greek version of said villain. And even villain, there's a good word. A villain comes from someone who lives in the town or the ville, the village. See, it's all coming together now. And Hassan Radwan beat me to the punch. And Iblis comes from Diablos. Yeah, I can see how devil, Diablo, and Iblis. But then you've got Shaitan and Satan. Two different names for the same entity or same being, or are they? Are they different? I've heard that there is a difference between Satanists and Luciferians. People who practice Satanism are just all about anti-religion, and they're anti-God, and they are all about going against religion, and they do the black mass, and they make a mockery of the church. But Luciferians actually believe in Lucifer and actually actively worship and believe that they are worshipping the devil or Lucifer. And Lucifer comes from light. Janelle is saying hi and is waving. Hello, Rizwana. Great to have you tuning in. Pleb Enforcement is saying, do you watch S. Williamism? No, I don't. I'll have to work out what that is. And Dardasha is saying, thanks Hassan Radwan for reminding us. It's amazing to see the link of the words. Yes, Julian, I like how you think of each Arabic word and try the meaning from the roots. Yeah, absolutely. And I always mention to Muslims some of the root meanings in the words in the Quran are lost because they came from Hebrew into Arabic, and some of them get lost in the translation. Hassan Ranwad is saying good night. It's good night from me. Tisbal khair, ya Hassan. Have a good night, my friend. And Pleb Enforcement is recommending that we check out the YouTube channel S. Williamism. I will check that out. So Lucifer, meaning light, it's strange that we talk about God being positive, the devil being negative, and we associate light with good and darkness with bad. But if you look into what the devil says about himself and how he's described, the devil is described as the one that brings light, the illuminated one. Pleb Enforcement is saying one cannot exist without the other. Yeah, we do need the yin and yang. We do need the good and the bad, the dark and the light. How would we distinguish one from the other otherwise? But it is interesting if you go deep into what Satanism says it is, what it says about itself, and you can sort of see the arguments that the Satanists or the Luciferians would make, that they were following the good and not the bad. Adam is asking me, what's your future plans for this channel? Well, I haven't been to Speaker's Corner for a while, and as I said recently, I would love to go from a channel from Speaker's Corner that sometimes travels and turn into a travelling channel that sometimes goes to Speaker's Corner. It's nice to check in at Speaker's Corner, but I do like to broaden my horizons, and going to the Ukraine, there's no the, just Ukraine, was an excellent trip. We smashed out 8 or 9 decent vlogs, I think, and it's not heartbreaking, but it's frustrating to make what you think is a quality vlog abroad, shot with different camera angles, edited together, upload it and think, I'm really proud of that, really enjoyed making it, really enjoyed editing it, and it's a great memory to cherish. I upload that and it gets, 100 views or so. Then I upload a backlogged, ready to go conversation that I had with Modine and Mexican Andy 2 weeks ago that I'd saved for a rainy day. And immediately that gets much more views than my hard grafted Ukraine trip video. But hey, that's all right. I understand that a lot of what this channel has achieved has come out of arguing with people in Speaker's Corner. And if I just went to Speaker's Corner and filmed fights all day long, I would probably have a more successful channel. But what is success? It's what you want, isn't it? It's what you want it to be. John Don is saying hi all. Greetings, John Don, and he's requesting, can you please do another podcast with Hassan Radwan? I would love to. Whenever Hassan Radwan gets the time, I will sit down with him, stand up with him, wherever he wants to do it. We'll do a chat, because he's always value for money. Pleb Enforcement is asking for my thoughts on COE, which stands for Content Over Everything. Great channel, great format, great setup, very professional. Leon's a lovely guy, and he does his thing. He doesn't like to be in front of the camera. He's not greedy for the limelight, unlike myself. He just puts it up there. It does what it says on the tin, and that's why it's so successful. I remember Jordan M had some queries about what COE were doing, and their sort of fly on the wall documentary style, and just sort of letting it letting it go and just uploading whatever happens. But I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe sometimes you do need to put some context to the content that you are uploading. That was an idea I had, actually, to do a rip-off channel. If I wanted to spoof COE, I could have done context over everything. Someone will probably steal that idea now. Context over everything. Yeah, we always need the context. And John is saying, please, Hassan Radwan has the greatest knowledge on Islam. Well, he's certainly got good knowledge on Islam, and he's got perspective. But what is Islam? I was speaking to I'll call him a critic of Islam recently. An Islamophobe is probably a strong word, but someone who declares that they don't like Islam. Fair enough. And I said to him, look, from my perspective, there is no such thing as Islam, only Muslims. Islam survives in the way that the followers portray it. If there were no Muslims, would there be any Islam? I'm sure Muslims would disagree, but from my perspective, we can only judge Islam on or maybe you can't judge Islam by its followers because the followers are imperfect. But what else do we have to go on? And there are good Muslims and there are bad Muslims. There are good Christians and bad Christians. There are people I like, there are people I don't like, of all different religions. But as I often mention, and Speaker's Corner has been a great example of this, some of the people I get on with the best or enjoy speaking with have differing opinions from mine. Pleb Enforcement is asking, who is a greater threat to the UK? Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn? No slippery answers allowed. Who is a greater threat to the UK? Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn? No slippery answers allowed. Well, the correct answer is Boris Johnson. That's the correct answer because he is the Prime Minister. Jeremy Corbyn is not the Prime Minister, and at this rate, he never will be. He is in a position to threaten the UK because it doesn't look like he will be the Prime Minister. Could we really have the Brexit party in charge of the country this time next year, this time next month, maybe? Who knows? Who knows when they might spring an election on us? But I hope that wasn't a slippery answer, Pleb Enforcement. Or was I just trying to be clever? Yeah, us plebs, us common folk, us proles, the proletariat, as good old communist Corbyn would say. Or is he a Trotskyite? Chapter 9 is here. Greetings. Good evening, Chapter 9. Good to have you with us for the final minute. We're going to wrap it up on the 40-minute mark. You know how I like to go out on a round number. Pleb Enforcement saying, fair enough, clever. The Brexit party will only stand in Labour seats, in my opinion. Well, yes. And as close as the Brexit vote was, 52-48, I believe, had it been carried out on a constituency basis, it would have been a landslide, essentially, for Brexit. And Labour didn't seem to reckon with that. Must have taken them by surprise. So much to talk about. So much anarchy in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Lessons for Life. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a random one, inspired by Jordan M. Maybe I'll do some more of these. Car Dawa, as he calls it. We'll do it all again. But Chapter 9 is asking, what are your thoughts on Israel's illegal attack on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla? I'll have to get back to you on that one, Chapter 9. But the news is we have a visitor in London tomorrow, a surprise visitor. I guess I've just ruined the surprise. Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting London tomorrow. What a surprise. 1 p.m. outside number 10. See you there. Bring on the anarchy. This has been Lesson for Life. We'll do it all again soon. We were here. We were gone. Laters. 1 p.m. number 10.